In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to master the first 10 turns in Civilization 6 to get you off to the best start possible. Now that is just disgusting. We are re-rolling. Oh yes, that's what we want to see. Alright, so when loading into the game, the first thing you want to be doing is looking to where you want to move your warrior. Obviously you're looking at the yields nearby and potential area that you want to explore. We already kind of know that there are some really high production tiles, but there is literally no food in these tiles, which isn't ideal. But production is strong and it can get a solid city that is just a production powerhouse. But looking at where we want to move, I'm thinking we move towards the wheat just to get a bit of extra vision in this area. One consideration when moving a warrior, if he was to be on a hilltop, he'd be able to see a little bit more. Then on a lowland, as we see here, the hilltop's kind of blocking the vision to that tile. Then when deciding where we're going to settle our city, there's three main considerations. One being water. So fresh water like this river here will provide me with 3 housing. Coastal water, like if I were to settle along here, would give me 1 housing, and if I were just to settle in the middle of nowhere like a tile here, I would get no housing. The second consideration is the actual tile you are settling on. Now there is one tile that is absolutely amazing to settle on in this game, and it is this very tile that we have luckily discovered right here. This will provide me with 2 food and 3 production, which is pretty much the best start you can get other than spawning next to like a wonder. One thing that you should always keep in mind is, say even if I settled on this desert tile here that has no yields, by settling my city, I will automatically get 2 food and 1 production. It's a given. So then a tile like this is going to give me an extra food. And then the third consideration is the tile that you will be next working. So if I were to settle here, I'd be next working one of these tiles, which are very solid. And when settling your first city, don't be afraid to potentially move a couple tiles, although just keep in mind how many tiles you will be moving. So in terms of what we're going to do here, this is actually not a bad place to settle a city here, because we're going to have a 2 food, 2 production start, and the first tile will be working is pretty strong. However, it would also be nice if we did move here, we would get a 2 food, 3 production. However, keeping in mind that we would have to go 1, 2, 3 turns to get to that tile, and then it would be on the 4th turn that we'd actually be able to settle the city. So overall, taking that into consideration, just going to end up settling exactly where we are. Another important mention is you can use the advisor to show you where good cities are. It's actually pretty helpful. So now we got to decide whether we want to move onto the gypsum here or just stay on the tile that we are currently on. Moving on to the gypsum would give us a luxury resource off the rip as well as an extra gold, so that is exactly what we're going to do. And our first tile will be working will be this one, so it's a very solid start. Settling the city here, a very nice starting city, and when our borders expand, we'll also get access to this tile here. Obviously looking at it, it's a very high production start and very low food start, but some of the best games come from starts like this. Now obviously that you have settled your first city, you want to be looking at what technologies you will be researching first. Now I know it could be quite overwhelming with all these different options of technologies you can get, but you always want to be taking into consideration what victory type you're going for. And another good way of deciding what you want to do for your first technology is looking at the tiles around your city and seeing what those tiles require to be improved. For example here, the gypsum needs mining to be improved, and the deers will need animal husbandry, as well as the ivory down here will also need animal husbandry. So in terms of what we're going to go with for our first technology here, as the gypsum is actually within our city borders, we're going to start off with that. And then from there, we are going to go gypsum into animal husbandry. And then we could potentially, as we're going to be wanting science, go pottery into writing. However, we're just going to take it bit by bit and just start with these 2 for now, as things may change later on. And also in terms of planning out your city, within the first 10 turns, it's not really anything you have to worry about for now. Although it's definitely helpful to look at when you're settling your first city, whether there's mountains by for a strong campus or floodplains so you can get dams and make some strong production cities. So normally I wouldn't worry too much about adding map tacs, however we will add a campus one here because we have a solid little campus location. Now moving on to build order, which is arguably one of the most important parts when setting up for a good game of Civ 6. Now I'd say there's not really any wrong way to go about it. Lots of people like to go scout first, as scouts are good for finding city-states nearby, for that envoy for being the first person to find them, good for finding goodie huts, and good for error score as well, and scouting other civs. However, for the most part, I don't normally go scout first, especially on like Deity AI, because whilst they do have that extra +1 movement, it's only 1 less than a warrior or a slinger, and a warrior and slinger both just have a lot more combat ability, so I will normally recommend going with these 2, unless you're looking to do a heck of a lot of scouting. Then it might be worth getting that and then getting a promotion on your scout. And in terms of the build order, my kind of go-to build order would definitely be slinger, monument, but you could also go something like a slinger, monument, slinger. So for our start here, we're definitely going to go slinger, monument as a strong recommendation. If you're playing on a higher level AI like Deity, for example, you definitely do want to make some combat unit as your first production, because you're going to be getting absolutely swarmed by barbarians, as well as the Deity AI itself is very strong, so you want to have a bit of a military presence just so you can fend off any attacks. I know some people also will go for a builder to start with. However, if we went for a builder early on, a lot of these tiles we aren't able to actually improve yet, and it's not a massive improvement. Getting a mine here is just one extra production, so normally I wouldn't recommend getting a builder in your first 3 productions. However, obviously there are some exceptions to this rule. Now that you have all that sorted, you want to begin scouting with your warrior. Now normally I recommend scouting in a sort of circular motion. You also don't want to bring your first warrior too far away from your city, just so that if a barbarian scout does come by, you're able to fend him off. And then obviously once you start getting other units out, you can start to explore a little bit wider. Just like I was saying here, we have a little barbarian scout coming by, so we're actually going to bring him back, just because if this guy reaches back to his camp, there's going to be hordes of barbarians, and ideally we don't want to have to deal with that. And as you see here, we have discovered a natural wonder which has actually boosted astrology, as well as we have found the barbarian camp, so we're going to want to take that out as soon as possible so not too many other barbarians spawn in. And our first production has come through with the slinger, and this is why it is so handy to go with the unit for your first production. Another thing that you definitely want to be taking into consideration is the Civic Tree and what civics you're going to go for first. Now craftsmanship is really good, as it does allow you to get extra production towards builders and production towards ancient era melee and anti-cavalry, as well as ranged units, which can be handy if you're going into an early game war. However, even more important than going with these two is what they will unlock. Now early empire and state workforce, one thing they both have in common is they give you your first governor, which is crucial, so you want to be getting that as soon as possible. But it is then up to you whether you go through the craftsman route to get to state workforce or foreign trade to get to early empire. In general, I normally lean towards foreign trade into early empire, as you can get a trader early on, as well as get open borders which you can sell off to the AI. And in general, it's easier to boost these civics, as with a bit of scouting you'll easily find a second continent. And generally by the time you're getting to this point, maybe not within my certain game because we don't have a whole lot of food, but generally for most games you'll reach about 6 population boosting this civic here. So for my game here as well, I'm going to go with foreign trade into early empire, and then I would normally go back to craftsmanship and then state workforce so we can get a government plaza. But that, my friends, is just about all you need to know to master the first 10 turns in Civ 6. And if you want to find out the 5 mistakes that you might be making in Civ 6, check out this video. And if you guys want to support the channel and protect your ears, then drop a like so I can get myself a new mic. Thank you guys for watching.